And coming up on this episode of the Marty Mariner Show, what an episode we have in store for you right now. And we'll kick it off very, very shortly. But firstly, can I just thank everybody who is watching us through YouTube? So great that we've got nearly 260 subscribers now. We're pushing towards 300. That's my next little target. I remember doing this when we got to nearly 100. So if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, it's totally free to do so. Aren't they some of the favorite words that I love to hear? Totally free to do so. And it helps spread the word. It's all got something to do with algorithms. Yeah, I don't know. But it helps spread the word of the Central Coast Mariners, and that has to be a good thing, right? So thank you so much if you have. If you haven't yet, buttons down there on the bottom somewhere. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. And for those that are listening and tuning in through Spotify, through Apple Podcasts, through iHeartRadio, through Amazon, and a number of different podcast platforms. Thank you so much for having us in your ears. I really greatly appreciate it. And the follows and the likes and the little things that you do, I see them all come through. It makes this old man's heart beat just that little bit quicker. I really, really appreciate you. And also, too, the people who come up to me at the games now and just say, oh, yeah, I listened to it. You have no idea. It fills my heart with joy. And so if you see me at the game, you want to come and say good day, absolutely. Come and say hello. Love to hear your views on the game, your views on the podcast, people that you'd love to come on the show. It really is a good thing. We've always been a community club. And to me, this is just all part of the community. We've got a number of people who do podcasts and all sorts of different things. I'm just one, but it's great that we're all in this together. So yeah, make sure you come and say good day. And yes, check us out on all those different podcast platforms as well. Suppose we better get on with the show. I couldn't do this show by myself. So I've enlisted the absolutely incredibly awesome Rachie Hart, podcast producing guru, award-winning podcast producing guru, might I add. We'll talk about that more in a little second when we get Rach on the show. And then a special guest that I've wanted to get on the show since day one. She's just an absolutely sensational player. I'm really glad she's at the Mariners. I watched her for a couple of years now, and she's sensational. Taylor Ray, an absolute delight to talk to after the games, and it was just we couldn't get her on this show quick enough. And so Rachel's going to help me co-host the show, chat with Taylor Ray, have a bit of a chat, bit of a chinwag, bit of a conversation. We'll talk about her journey from Townsville all the way through Sydney, through some Matildas games at different ages, and ending up at the Central Coast Mariners. We'll talk about the comparison between Sydney and Central Coast, what it's like, a Sydney-based team around the city to the community have we at the Central Coast, playing for the Mariners, what it's like, the community sticking around after the games. And we asked the big question, what's the earliest date your Christmas decorations should go up? You might want to put that in the comments as well. We'll ask Taylor Ray all the big questions here on the Marty Mariner Show. But look, Rach is here. She's waiting to come on to start her co-hosting duty, so I better not keep her waiting. Let's get it all started. It's the Marty Mariner Show. And welcome back to the Marty Mariner Show. And as I said in the introduction, not only do we have a very special guest coming on the show, but we've actually got royalty to co-host the show with me. We've gone to Harvey Norman, we've gone to the bedroom section, we've gone straight to the top drawer. Let me tell you, this is class here, and we're building this lady up. She's pressure's on. But look, she's a former Mariners staffer. She's a local radio legend from days gone by. But these days she's a podcasting producer, nay, an award-winning podcasting producer, which puts absolutely no pressure on this guy doing a podcast. It's kind of like Steven Spielberg sitting there while I'm watching a little movie. It's a bit crazy for me. It's Eminem, what's his thing? Palms are sweaty, knees deep. Yeah, mum's sweaty. It's all happening here. But it's an absolute pleasure to have her on because she's an absolute legend herself. Rachie Hart, how are you doing, mate?
Hello, mate. You always hype me up way too much, and I love every second of it. Thank you.
Mate, I had 10 minutes to go. What are you talking about? It's only because we've got a guest coming on.
We're going to cut it there. We need to get to the guest sooner, I reckon.
Yeah, when this goes to air, mate, it'll be, hey, Rachie Hart, and that'll be
good.
it. But no.
Good.
Remember this part. Mate, since we last called up, because this is not your first appearance on the Marty Mariner Show. You're a seasoned pro of this sort of stuff. But since those days, you're now down in Melbourne town.
I am. I moved down in Melbourne just over 12 months ago. So, yeah, I think the last time I was on the pod was 2023. ahead of our grand final, or 2024 ahead of our grand final, actually, the
Oh,
first grand final back
there's so many of them.
after a decade. There's been so many of them and so many wins lately.
Yeah, hard
That
to
was
keep
the
track.
first time I was on. And it was great to walk down memory lane. But yeah, have moved down to Melbourne since for work.
Yeah.
And it's been great. I tell you what, I know that we obviously love our Central Coast Mariners, but the amount of games that are on down here in Melbourne, I'm not hating it.
No, it is true. It is the sporting capital, right? I mean, as
Yeah.
much as I've only ever lived on the Central Coast, apart from obviously being in England, but I love coming down to Melbourne. Down there recently, even just for the Melbourne Cup, was just fantastic. But
Mm.
it really is a sporting town, isn't it?
Yeah, and given that like I am a football fanatic through and through, I have jumped at the opportunity to go and watch a couple of Melbourne derbies already. I did catch the girls when they came down a couple of weeks ago. They played against Melbourne City. I was at that game. Like it is just so good, and it's the energy around here when there is live sport in this city is pretty cool.
Absolutely. But as they say, you can take the girl out the Central Coast, but you can't take the Central Coast out of the girl. And tell me now about these podcasts, because I mean, obviously, we do them through here, but every time I'm checking out your feed, I've won this and I'm working with this, and drop as many names as you want, mate. I'll pick them up later. But you just a superstar. How did it come about going from the radio sort of stuff into podcasting? And yeah, where's all that happening now?
So I work for Nova Entertainment. So we do Nova and Smooth around the cap cities in Australia, and I work on our podcasting. So I've been with Nova for 4 years. Have been lucky enough to work across so many different titles with a lot of people, celebs from the telly, and also people that have been on like reality TV shows and things like that. And yes, have been very lucky to have both of my shows win awards this year, which has been amazing. But yeah, from radio to pods, it wasn't too much of a jump. But I was doing breakfast radio up in Port Macquarie with one of my co-hosts, Bodge, my only co-host, and I honestly, to be completely frank, had a little bit of a rough time with my mental health while I was up there. Needed to come back to the coast, and just went for a job in Sydney at a company called Mamma Mia, and managed to get a junior podcast producing role. And that was 2018 now. So I've been in podcasting ever since, and now very luckily an award-winning executive producer.
Wow, it's just crazy, and it's credit to you because you're one of the hardest workers in the business. Not that I know a lot of people in the business, but you're definitely one of the hardest workers. And look, just asking for a friend.
Yep.
What makes a good podcast?
It's all about the content, Marty, and you have the best content. We know that. No, but genuinely it is. Like I find that if the content is good, it's going to be the backbone of your audience as well. If you can relate that content to your audience, and you can make sure that you're constantly checking in with your audience and finding what they want, if you can get those loyal fans to come along with you, that's what makes a podcast. If you can get something that's going to speak to people, it's going to be relatable, it's going to bring people joy and also educate them every so often. So you're ticking all the boxes.
Okay, well, I'm writing this stuff down, man. I got it in my hand. Content, relatable, yeah. Got it all, mate. I'll let him know. He'll be thrilled.
Yeah, of course. Just for
and look, it's not just the podcasting, because there's a little older Instagram page that I believe you're having a little bit to do with at the moment too.
Yes, I have been lucky enough to take over the Central Coast Mariners Women Fans Instagram, which is at CCM Women Fans on Insta. The lovely Gemma was the one, I've got to give her a shout out. She was the one that set the entire thing up. And unfortunately, about a month ago, I think it was, she just wasn't able to keep going with that. Made an announcement and asked a few people on the page or that follow the page if anyone would be interested in taking it over. And I honestly jumped at the opportunity and was lucky enough to have her hand me the reins. So I am actually working on chatting to a couple of the players already to get some content that's off the pitch, that's a little bit different, that can give you a little bit more behind the scenes look at some of the players as well. I've been lucky enough to go, as I mentioned before, the Melbourne City away game and capture some content for it there. But I really want to build it up to be like a real good fan-based page and kind of fan-owned page. So I love getting feedback. I love hearing from anyone that follows it. What do you want to know? How do you want to go about it? And I'll see if I can make it happen.
Absolutely. And I absolutely got no doubt that you will. And yeah, if you haven't followed the page yet, and if you haven't done it, make sure you do, because it's the more the merrier. And I absolutely have no doubt that this young lady will make an absolute killing of it. Not
Thank
too much of
you.
a killing of it that it might take away from other places, but
Never.
you know, no, we're all in this together. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
exactly,
Make
exactly.
sure we follow it. So, but look, it's thanks so much for coming in. We've got Taylor Ray waiting. We better not keep her any longer, because I reckon she'd be really aggro, and I don't want to fight with anyone today. It's been too long a day already. So, thanks, Rach. We'll see you on the other side of this, and thanks for hopping on.
I'm keen. Let's chat to Tay.
Let's do it. Yes, welcome back to the Marty Mariner Show. As two on the screen become three, we welcome, well, a young lady who used to play in sky blue, and now she's come to a team that still plays in blue, but has a lot of palm trees and giant sauce bottles in the view as well. Taylor Ray, welcome to the Marty Mariner Show, mate. How are you doing?
I am so great, guys. I'm so excited to be here. I feel like it's been a long time coming, and I'm already in spirit. I've got the blue in the background, so I'm still
Come on,
repping.
come on.
And I'm excited to talk all things football, but whatever questions you have, let's get to it.
Oh, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. And yeah, thanks for giving us your time. I've got to ask you straight up, what is your first footballing memory? The first memory you have of actually kicking the ball around?
I have to say, my mum was my coach from under four. It was called the Kelso Crocs because I'm originally from Townsville up in far North Queensland.
Absolutely.
So I think it's my mum belting a ball at me and saying, go fetch it. Not gonna
Oh,
lie.
nice. Okay. Breed them tough in Townsville, I take it. Is that the coaching method up there? The methodology? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think my mum, she was like the only female to play in Nelson in Canada where she grew up. So she was,
Wow.
I guess, brought up in a bit of a tough environment and she wanted me to carry over and, also do the same thing. But no, I'm very grateful that my mum, like someone I look up to, was my first coach and got me into the game. Yeah.
Did you
Absolutely.
have any other choice then, Taylor? If she was playing football and belting balls at you at 4 years old, were you always going to be a football player?
I think so, because other than that, I'm terrified. Like if I say
Yeah.
no, like what's going to happen next, guys?
Yeah. No dinner for weeks.
No.
Yeah, exactly right. Or more chores and then I don't get paid. So I'm like, come on, mum, like help me out a little bit.
I'll play football. I'll play football. And, how long was it along that journey? Like, obviously, when we first start kicking around as a 4 or 5 year old, it's a bit of fun. But when did it get to the point in your juniors where you started thinking, you know what, I'm actually quite enjoying this?
I think for me was I got scouted when I was 10 years old. I
Mm.
made like the under 12s North Queensland side. And I think from that point, I kind of realized I had a little bit of a talent and it was something I was good at and I really enjoyed. And I think a lot of female footballers don't understand you can do this professionally. So from at that age, I was like, oh, it's just a little bit of fun. Why not just keep going with it? And then ended up making like the Queensland state sides, got scouted from like Leah Blaney and Alan Stajic from the age of like 12, 13 to come down to Sydney to do like camps and stuff with Wanderers. And I guess like that just shows you, I don't know, it gave me a little bit of belief and a bit of self-motivation
Mm.
that I am good enough to make it, even though I am from far North Queensland. So I think it all started from that first original North Queensland camp.
Okay.
And just with that, grassroots football is so important in this country and obviously on the coast as well as in Townsville, regional communities getting through the kids through football. Did you have anyone like, either from your area or anyone that you looked up to that you were like, oh, I'm watching them do exactly what I want to do? Or was it just kind of you getting scouted and that was how you knew that there was a trajectory to professional football?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think there was a lot that actually gave me that vision to want to be a professional footballer. I didn't even know about the W League back then, and
Mm.
a lot of my time was spent watching the men's football side of it because back when I was younger, we had the North Queensland Fury who were part of the A League for a little bit, but then obviously that didn't really work out because there's just not enough funding in Townsville and not enough people that play the sport, to be honest. It is growing now, of course, from exposure and everything, but for me, from the age of like 11 or 12, I started doing this academy with Gareth Eds, and he had a GSA academy. He played over in England for
Mm.
MK Dons and everything like that. So he was the first proper coach that said no, females can go places, and he's the one who set up all these training camps down in Sydney for me. So to be honest, he was my biggest person that got me into football, that you can do this, you're good enough, and just someone that could guide me along those ways. And like without him, I wouldn't be where I am today. So a big shout out to him. Yeah.
Absolutely. And when you started playing, obviously trying to find positions that we play, did you always find yourself in the middle of the park?
I actually started off as a winger and I'm not that quick. So like I feel like we've come a long way now, guys. Now I'm a CDM, which is kind of crazy in itself. But yeah, winger, tried a bit of left, right back, center back, and then
Right.
they'll like go in the midfield. You have like that vision and that like scanning awareness and the discipline. And since then, I think maybe the age of probably after that first like camp, when I was about 11, 12, I was pretty much set as a midfielder.
Mm.
And even the creative side though, because I've seen, I mean, we'll talk about obviously playing at the Mariners soon, but even with Sydney, but there's still a tendency that I see when you're playing to want to push forward and play those passes too. Is there an inner striker in there somewhere that's just bursting to get out?
Oh God, no. Oh no. Guys,
she's a humble queen. She's a humble queen.
I have an opportunity.
Yeah, you had to ask the question, and I like thank you for asking that question. Maybe one day it can come out. Maybe Emily can bring that out of me. She did put me as a 9 in training the other day, and I was like, I've got something here. And she was like, yeah, okay. But in all honesty, like, no, I do love playing as a midfielder, and I think I do have that like attribute of being more disciplined. Like I love being a defender, and I feel like most games are won through your defensive efforts and goals are scored sometimes through great build up and everything, but it can be a bit of a luck of the draw where defenses teams break down and that's when your opportunities arise. So yeah, I do love being a CDM.
Absolutely. So with the camps and everything that was going on, how did it work out? It was 2017 you ended up playing at Sydney, I think was the first year there. How did all that come about for you?
Okay, I was like, you're taking it a few years back. I actually have no idea when my first like year I started with Sydney FC, but so when I got scouted by Stadge and Leah, I moved down to Sydney originally by myself, actually with a host family. So already for like someone so young going away from family, that's a hard kind of I was there for about a month and then I did my first ACL, so I actually went back home. So it is a bit of a journey. It's hard to kind of answer this one question without giving you all that background context. But I went to Westfield Sports High School, played for the New South Wales Institute of Sport back then, did the Future Matildas, and through just like the NPL through Institute, Ante was actually at a game, scouted me from the age of 14, 15, and he was like, I want to put you on a scholarship and sign you. So from the age of like 15, I was at Sydney FC, and obviously back then, like that's huge. Like it's one of the biggest, most successful clubs. And that was like a dream come true. So that's how it all technically started.
You mentioned your ACL, Taylor, and I feel like we have to talk about it. How old were you when you first did it? Because you've done three ACLs, right?
Yes, unfortunately, we've done three and done, guys. That's all I'm saying. So make sure
touch wood. Everyone touch wood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But how old were you when you first did your ACL?
I would have been 14, turning 15. So
that's ridiculous.
Very young. And it's so sad to see that this is something that's more common. Like females are 5 times more likely to do an ACL now. And you can see it in last season, how many happens. And even in AFL and any kind of female sport, this is such an issue that needs to be addressed. And like, obviously that's why I'm passionate about talking about it after doing 3.
Can I ask as well, you were 14, your body would have still been growing at that point, having to rehab an injury and now having to do it 3 times over. What was the recovery process like? And has it changed from when you were like a 14-year-old? Because most recently you did it 2 years ago, right?
Yes, in 2022 was my last one.
Yeah. So has the recovery process changed for you from like when you were 14, still a kid basically, and then now as an adult?
Yeah, most definitely. And also I still have room to grow if you haven't seen. Like I've got more, guys, don't worry.
Wishful thinking, Dal. I don't know whether it's gonna get there.
I dream about it, guys. I dream about it. I think from 14, I did my rehab in Townsville with a North Queensland Cowboys physio, actually, John Crawley. So I think the difference in just sports and getting that kind of exposure and 14 not knowing anything, that changed like drastically. Because then the last 2, I worked alongside like Sydney FC. Then I also for my third one had Matildas, and the resources and in a way, the finance you have to help get an athlete back is very different. So for a general population person, like unfortunately, you probably need 12 to 16 months to come back. But for me, I returned back in 10 months. So I think it's all about like the people around you. That does help, but about the individual and how much you want to put into it to get out of it. Like I found everything happens for a reason. That's kind of like my philosophy. And I grew so much just as a person, got to work on my weaknesses and turn them into strengths. And I came back as a better player for it. So at the end of the day, I am grateful. I do know the reasons why they've happened because I've had a lot of growth throughout every single one of them. But it is very dependent on what you have around you to get the best care and best out of your rehab.
Absolutely. And obviously there's the obvious physical challenges coming up, but mentally, that whole thing, especially if it's happened more than once. I mean, we see you as this really positive kind of, bubbly, get stuck out there person, but it must hit hard. The mental side of this, you want to get out there and play the game. It's happening. What goes through your mind in those stages?
Yeah, it's a very sad thing to even like relive now because my first thing I said when I did them, like, why me? Why me again? And it's like when you're a person who does all the right things, like does the recovery, does the rehab, does all the gym stuff, eats correctly, you just get to a point where it's like, what's happening? And there isn't like really too much that tells us why they do happen. Like, was it because females didn't get enough contact exposure growing up? Probably. But for me, genetically thinner ligaments, unfortunately, was the reasons why I've done mine.
Yeah.
But the mental side, like, I'm not gonna lie, I went through the biggest depression like episode that I've ever gone through. And for a bubbly, positive person, that hit me really hard, like you said. So, but then I just take a sit back. I allow myself to be upset and think this is the worst thing ever. Give myself the time to actually grieve and show those emotions, talk to people, find that support network where I can actually not be a burden and let out those feelings because as soon as you do that, for me, it's like I flip the switch and then I was straight into I love the game. I love doing this. I have built such a career for myself already. Why stop here? And I've never felt more resilient to overcome something. And that's why I actually love helping so many other people get through this journey. And like for example, like Amy Sayer, what I was mentioning to you guys before, she's one of my best friends going through this unfortunately as well. And just being able to guide her and tell her, no, this is normal. It's okay to experience this. Don't feel like you're burdening me because like I want to be there for you. Like this happens to so many people and it's okay to not be okay.
Absolutely. And just listening to, I mean, it's I mean, even I feel now I should get up and start stretching my legs and move around. Like you're so inspiring in the way that you talk about it. But yeah, and a question just offhand is there any coaching ability that you want, any coaching future for you, that the motivating factors, the experiences that you've had on and off the field, is there a part of you that wants to take it to that kind of level?
Yeah, 100%. So I'm studying a Bachelor of Health Science, so that should kind of explain
Oh,
already like the passionate side of that and wanting to either go into physio or EP where I specialize in a niche market of ACL injuries. So that's already kind of what I'm looking forward to. And I have done like coaching stuff with kids in the past in the
yeah,
football aspect as well. And no, I definitely love to. Like I'm really open to doing that. And like you said, when you love something so much, you just want to share it with everyone around you.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, watch out, Emily husband. We've got her for a bit, yeah, but you can definitely, stick around, mate. Stick around. We can have a word. And I
She
think it was
won't mind
around
Mm.
we and also one thing I didn't realize was that there was also some games for the Matildas in the under 17s and under 20s in there as well. How did it feel to get those kind of phone calls?
Yeah, I think you just don't expect it. Hey, you're living your day-to-day life, just doing like MPL, whatever kind of like Sydney FC training back then for me and whatnot. And then you get a call from like some of the assistant coaches like Leah or Gary Van Egmont at that point. And you
Yeah.
actually it's an unknown number. So you just pick up and you're like, hello. And they're like, look, you've been working so hard. They give you like that rundown. We've watched your games. Your stats are really showing to us. We want you to be a part of this. And like for me, that call up to the Matildas was like that was shocking. I think for the first time I was speechless, and that doesn't happen to me.
Find that hard to
So
believe, mate.
yeah, exactly. So if that says enough in itself, it's like everything you've worked through. And for me, with all those injuries that
Yeah.
kind of have happened in my career, it's like my moment has finally come, and this is why I kept going. And it's just a big motivational thing for me now.
And you got the call up as well to the senior team, but I want to talk about coming into that environment, because they're players that you may have played with before or players that you may not have played with before, and you usually have such a short turnaround before a game to bond with them, to gel with them. How does that work? And also, how did that feel when you were stepping on the pitch for your first time representing your country?
Yeah, I think going into that like national setup, you already are like, okay, like I want to be on time. I want to get to know the older girls who have been in this setup for so long. Like Matildas have had pretty much a regular kind of team for the last few years. So when you're coming in, it's like, what can I bring different to this team? Because you don't want to be the same old ordinary player. You want to bring your creative and imagination side to the game. And for me, because like, yes, I love to like just talk a lot in general. I love to get to know the girls because if you build chemistry off the field, it really correlates on the field. So just pushing yourself out of that comfort zone to have those conversations. And I was kind of grateful because I already knew a lot of players from Sydney FC, like Alana Kennedy, Caitlin Ford, all those girls I've actually known. So for me, I think it was an easier transition. And then for the ones who haven't been in it, I feel like I have to step up and make them feel welcome. And I love doing that because that's what wins you games, being a team. So yeah. And then debuting, like I can't even speak. It's like against Spain too, in
Love it.
Spain.
In
It's
Spain.
like
Yeah.
it's crazy. And it's like against some of the top players against like in the entire league of the game. I was so happy. And for me, for the first time, I felt like I could be proud of myself and proud to like show my family. Because
Oh,
That's
yeah, my
awesome.
family made a lot of sacrifices for me to move to Sydney. Like my mom ended up moving back for me. My dad sold his ski boat because he used to race professionally, like
Oh,
just to get me down to Sydney. So it's like paying back, if that makes sense.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And tell me, because I'm telling you now, it's something I would have done. When you got your Australian tracksuit and your top, did you go down the local shopping centre and kind of just, Matilda kind of, what was it a bit like that when you had because I can tell you now, I'd be doing that.
Yeah.
Well, if you searched up my TikTok, Amy and I made a TikTok about my whole journey getting to Spain with the tracksuit. So that says enough in itself, being silly and kind of being like, oh my God, your moment's finally come. But then also being like, okay, we have a job to do. Let's stay switched on and stay humbled. But no, it was very surreal. You know, you got to send the pictures to the family and be like,
Yeah.
wow, we've finally done it. And I'm excited to show what I can bring now.
Oh, absolutely. And hopefully not the last appearances there too, right? I think there was we'll see some more in the future. Look, Sydney FC, I mean, we don't want to talk about them too much, but they're a big part of your life, so we've got to add them in there somewhere. Was it 3 premierships, 3 championships, 4 grand finals? What was it about that group? I mean, we'll talk about how it compares to the Mariners in a sec, but what was it about that group of players that got that success through that period of time?
Yeah, for sure. Like I'll always have like a big soft spot for Sydney FC, and that's just because they brought me to be the person and player I am today. But when you are in an environment that has so many national team players, and not just from Australia, but also from the States as well. Like we had Aubrey Bledsoe as our goalkeeper,
Yeah.
we had Danny Colaprico, Sophia Huerta. These are big names, and
Yeah.
being in an environment where I had to constantly compete against that, like that forces me out of my comfort zone, but also to step up. And I think when, like, naturally, if you have big names coming through, like you look at the last 4 seasons with Courtney Vine, it really just brings that flair to the game and that excitement. And I think when you have like big players and excitement, it also draws fans to your games too, brings your support network bigger. And I think for me, all these players were my friends as well. And I
Yeah.
think that's what brought the success as well. And Ante is a great coach. Like I learned so much from him. He's very superstitious and he's very technical and tactical with what he wants to do. And he just always found a way to like work around us and what we needed. So yeah, I just think like, at the end of the day, it's about the teammates you have around you and
Yeah.
how can you get the best out of each other. And yeah.
What kind of superstitions are we talking? Are we talking like the same pair of underwear every single
Yeah.
time on game day? Like
Yeah.
not walking under ladders? What are we talking here?
Yeah.
We're talking like we're gonna do the same sequence of patterns in training until we lose the game, and then that's when we'll change the
Yeah.
training like
Okay.
kind of structure. Or the shirt, he'll wear like a button-up shirt, and then if we lose, he'll go to a polo like the next week.
Wow.
Same pen in the change room, same pen.
Nice.
But I'm
Wow.
superstitious too, so that's why I think we got along as well. So it
Really
worked.
well.
Yeah.
Did you have some superstitions yourself?
Yeah, so I think the night before a game, I always have like salmon, rice, vegetables, a very classic
Yep.
dinner. I don't think it's changed for the last 7 years.
Skin
Um,
skin on salmon, skin
yeah,
on.
skin on salmon, like
Crispy. Yeah.
Yeah,
hey less guys, come on. We got to get those natural oils. And
sure.
day of the game, I'll always have like avocado, like eggs and bacon. I never eat bacon, but only on a game day.
Wow.
Um, Sports bra, got to put the right boot on before the left boot, step on the field with my right foot first. So look out for that
This
this
is so
weekend.
Oh,
good.
and on Saturday, yeah. Okay, cool. Does that
And that's
include
just
the
a
warm up
few.
though?
Even warm up, both. Anytime I go on the field, it has to do
Right
it.
foot. Right, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
That's just a few. Yeah. I think we can move on next one.
So good.
Just a few of the basic ones, she says.
Yeah, just basic. Everyone does that, surely, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I'm great with my sports bra too, mate. It's the same thing. That's awesome. So a successful time at Sydney. I mean, that was a great run at the club. How did it end up being that you ended up at the Central Coast Mariners?
Yeah, so I think for me, like last season I didn't get the game time I probably would have thought I deserved and stuff. And like every coach has their reasons, and I'm very understanding of that. But I got to a point where I started just like reflecting on my career, and I think new environments bring new challenges and forces you to grow and develop as a player. And I think it got to a point where I was like, I'm still very young. Like I'm 23. If I can get more development going under a new coach and new environment
Mm,
and teammates, can that bring my game to a new level?
Mm,
And I just was like, you know what, I need to get out of my comfort zone. And I reached out to like my agent and she was so like lovely to meet up with me and just speak about it. Whether or not I was coming or not, she gave me that time.
mm,
And that first chat like made me want to come instantly. And I
yeah.
think it's just the relationship we built in such a short amount of time where she understood me as a person and used getting to know me to actually help me with my game. And from that, I was like, I love what she's talking about and what she offers. So why not just like give it a go?
Yeah.
sorry. How was that transition for you as well, Taylor? Like, what was it like coming into that group? How did Emily transition you into the Mariners girls? And was there any like initiation or anything that you did up front when you're first coming into the team? Were they
That you
like
can
it?
talk about. That you can talk about. We'll just
Yeah, they're like, it's time for a nudie run down at Terrigal Beach,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
go.
Yeah, I had to get up and do a whole performance, like, and I'm a terrible singer. Obviously danced around a little, but no. So it was really great actually. We did a team bonding thing down at Terrigal Beach, believe it or not, as the first initial get together of the whole group. And I think I've always known of so many of these players, like Belle. I played with Ash before, played with Sarah, the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
So I think already knowing familiar faces, just being a part of the game for so long, did kind of help me ease into that a bit better. But for me, I'm just like, I'm gonna be myself, show my loud
Mm.
personality.
Yeah.
And it just made me click with everyone so much. Like I think I've gotten to that point where I feel comfortable to just be myself because at the end of the day, like, life is too short, so why not just like send it in a way? But
100%.
the girls are so lovely. Like they were like, we're so excited to have you on our team, Taylor. We were hoping you're signing for us because when I announced I was leaving, everyone was messaging me like, oh my God, where are you going? People like, you're going to City, Victory.
Yeah.
Someone said Mariners, and I was like, did a little winky face. I was like, maybe. Um, but
Love it.
yeah, no, it was the easiest transition I've ever had into a team. And I think that just kind of shows the culture from
Yeah.
Mm.
day one. And that's why I just was like, this feels like a new home. And I'm
Yeah.
excited to like be a part of that.
And isn't it a thing too, especially from what I've seen in the Ninja A League, that I mean, you guys all know each other, all the different teams. There's good friendships. You don't have to hate each other. You get out there for the 90 minutes and you'll kill each other to get a result. But I see it after every game. Players catching up with each other, getting their selfies taken, whatever. It's got such a good feel about it that you're all there for the game. You can play your game, play as hard as, but afterwards, hey, let's all catch up.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think I know I have friends in every single team that we verse. And I
Awesome.
love that because it kind of keeps your friendships together as well. Because, like, you never see each other. And
Yeah.
how great that you're doing something you both love and you do for work in a way. And like on the field, like, I hate you. After the field, I
Yeah.
love you. Like, you know what I mean?
Love it.
It's a great relationship, I think. It's not toxic at all. But I think that's the beauty of female football that
Mm.
everyone just gets around each other. Like if you win and you guys played absolutely amazing, I'm gonna be like, you know what, you deserve that win. I take my hat off to you. but
Yep.
I'll get you next time. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So it's that
absolutely.
rivalry that you just love.
Yeah, absolutely. And even coming to the Mariners too. I mean, I know, playing football, you're out there training, play the games, and a lot of that would be similar club to club. Obviously, there's differences, but the Mariners have always been very much a community base. We're a smaller area. What is the difference that you notice from a player's point of view, playing for a club that's very community based, and as we are here on the coast, as opposed to maybe the pressures and the maybe the more city feel of a Sydney FC?
Yeah, I think the first thing I loved about it from coming from like a country town myself, it kind of felt like I would fit in a little bit more because I'm used to a smaller community, but
Yeah.
also one that I want to promote the game and also grow this community too. So
Mm,
I kind of came into it thinking like we have so much like opportunities to make this such an amazing club. And that
mm,
makes me excited in a way because I'm like, they're already great fans too. Like
yeah,
I have only just come to this club and already like staying behind after games to build that relationship with the fans, it
yeah,
means so much to them. And when I see a little kid smiling or saying like, Taylor, can we get a photo? That
yeah.
just makes your heart melt. Like it's so heart touching.
Okay.
And compared to like Sydney, where it's like you have like so many people, yes, but that pressure,
Mm.
like you said, it's like
Sure.
if you're not in that top four, if you're not making a grand
Mm,
final, people are going to be like, what's going wrong? They start to come up with theories of why you're like crumbling and things where the Mariners, it's like, you're an underdog. You've only just come into this. Imagine proving every single person wrong. So
absolutely.
I love that. I love that pressure.
And being such a small club, like you do have that connection with your fans so closely as well. What has the response been? Like, what has the feedback been from the fans and everything like that? Because, we haven't had a women's team for a very long time. So this is something that's fresh and new. And a lot of the stuff that I've seen online in particular is from young girls on the coast that finally have some really like real life idols to look up to that are right in front of them.
Mm,
Yeah, 100%. I think like when you see all the fans coming out now, and yes, a lot of them are younger girls. For me, it's like we're kind of inspiring and motivating them that one day if you want to be a professional footballer, you actually can now. And even if you're from a smaller community, like I came from Townsville, there's nothing
Mm.
up there. For me, like I love that they get that opportunity. Like I am so glad we're like paving the way for this next generation to be able to have this and hopefully get paid a lot better to do it full time without having those extra external stresses to add to it. But when I see them after saying like thank you so much, like they are so kind when you stay behind for just
mm.
2 minutes to have a chat and get a photo, they absolutely adore it. And like what more can you ask for? And they come back to every game. And if you keep the same community coming and slowly add a couple more each time, that's
Mm.
how we promote our game. And that's just like that's beautiful. I love that.
Absolutely. And it's a question I always like asking the players too. What's the weirdest thing you've been asked to sign?
Um, oh, I've had a couple, obviously foreheads and stuff, but I always ask consent of the parents because that's a bit weird.
As a
Um,
social worker, I thank you for that.
yeah, yep. Don't worry, got my working with children check. Don't stress.
Good job.
Um, I have had to do like a scrapbook that all had photos of me and like letters to me. So that was really cute. Very wholesome stuff. I had oh my God, this one. Okay, this is the best one. A photo frame. I had a picture of me, but I also had a picture of me as a baby with a cowboy hat on. And yeah,
That wasn't from your mum or anything.
I
Like
was
it
going to
wasn't your mum
say,
on the sideline being like, babe, sign this.
well, literally, I'm thinking maybe because like, how did they get that photo? I was like,
Yeah.
I haven't been anywhere. I was like, that's really creative, and I got to respect the commitment. So thank
yeah,
you for that, whoever you are. Thank you.
yeah. Shout out to the fans. Love it. Good
Yeah,
job. Love it.
of the fence. Yeah.
But moving on. The differences between I mean, I totally agree. Ante, fantastic coach in what he's done. The differences though between Ante and M. I mean, both, great in what they do. What similarities do they have that you found, but what differences that do they have?
Yeah, I think straight off the bat, some differences is Auntie's very old school, like where he doesn't really believe in like the gym side of it, the GPS side, like he stays away from all that stuff. And he thinks like even with like the physio side, like, oh, in a way, toughen up. You can get through it, push yourself. Some of the similar stuff with like the tactical stuff, I've noticed like where the type of ways they want to play here and there, that's been some similar stuff as well. But I can already tell you straight away the difference is the communication side, where straight away she asked, how do you want your feedback? How do you want me to approach you? If you're not in the lineup, would you want a phone call? Would you want a text message face to face? Like, do you want to be called out in training as demonstrations? Do you not? And for me, having a female coach who I haven't had for a long time, you can see the communication and the more person relationship building than just a player. Because at the end of the day, like we're people as well, and everyone reacts to differences, like how you want to be treated. Like we all think different. So when you build that relationship one on one, you have a bit more of an understanding, and that brings the best out of a player. So by far, like I've really experienced some great things with M showing that kind of like courtesy to offer that to me. I was actually a bit shocked when she asked me. I was like, oh wow, that's crazy. Like you want to know these things.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful because it means you can be more like honest and vulnerable. Like you can speak up and not hide those things you might be anxious and stuff about, because like pressure and anxiety, like for some people that can like affect performance. So if she can like minimize that and add all these other things on top, like that's amazing. So that's a big one for me. I think just the way like the training is structured, what she wants to get out of it, like having the video before a session, going through what we're working for. Like this is for our BP, this is our BPO, this is how we want to play out, giving us those like resources to use, going through huddle with Matt offering all that. It just seems really professional. And Sydney was professional, but in different ways. And this is just professional, I think, in every way I've ever experienced. Yeah.
And do you think that's probably in part too? Because I mean, there's been a bit of turnover for the team from last year to this year, but every one of the new players that's come in with Jessica at the back and Jade, yourself, and Brooke, and everyone has just seemed to slide straight in. And the team, I actually said that the first 45 minutes of the game on the weekend, I thought was the best I've seen us play in the last season as well. To me, especially in transition going forward, the first time passes, it was like you guys have played together for years and years and years. Do you think that's got obviously some experience and stuff like that helps, but do you think it comes down to that set training of this is how we do it, get out there and get it done?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, because at the end of the day, consistency builds good habits. And I think that really showed in that game. I do believe that first 45 minutes was outstanding. Like the patience we had, the build up, and also just the way we talk to each other. Like, for example, having Jess behind me and Ash, like they were telling me my whole job was to kind of block that line to Gilnick, and she barely got on the ball. And that's because they were telling me left, right shoulder, things like that. But I do think just like with the structure of the training, no matter what you think you're going to go through in the game, we've kind of covered that through the session. And if you don't understand what we've gone through, she stays behind, goes through it again, or we break it down even more, because some people get it straight away and some people don't. Like it depends on your position. And it does show, like it really does show on the field, and it's early into the season and we have such a long way to go. So if this is already a great positive we're seeing, like so much more to build with.
That communication was something that really stood out to me. Like I watched you girls a couple of weeks ago down here in Melbourne against City, and that is at a ground where you can literally be right up against the fence, and it's like a five-a-side ground nearly. And I was able to hear you guys talking to each other, and the amount of communication, it was so structured, it was so like ongoing, so constant. Emily's communication with you all, like it was something that I was so fascinated by, and something that I hadn't really been able to hear going to football matches when you're in stadiums and stuff before. And it really stood out to me. Is that, like, obviously you're building that in training and everything as well, but is there anything else that Em does with you girls to build that outside and build that trust outside of the training ground as well?
Yeah, it's actually quite funny because we obviously have some girls that are international, and the cues of words that they would be used to are very different to what we would say. So we actually went through it, which is crazy enough, about communication. Like, what does switch mean? Like, what does like all these little things mean? And that's just getting everyone on the same page to begin with. So I thought that was actually really funny, because I'm like, how do you not understand this, guys? Come on. Like, what are they teaching you over there in the UK? Far out. But no, like Em actually, like even today in training, she actually had a go at us, because she was like, I only hear a few people talking. Girls, like when you play a game, that's what you need to do. So I think it's that like driving us to stay accountable for our actions that is the most important thing that I've realized. And but also some of us older ones who understand that importance, telling the younger ones, you can speak up too. Like, even if you're wrong or right, you're still trying to direct and help someone to help the whole team. So I just think it's, holding each other accountable. And Emma's really good at making us stand up for that, but also when she needs to step up alongside like the assistant coaches.
Absolutely. And you, I mean, I probably know the answer to this, but I'm going to answer anyway. You enjoy a bit of banter when you're out there on the field?
Yeah, obviously. I feel like you guys know me well enough now. Like, even against Rachel Lowe on the weekend, I was talking so much shit to her, I'm not gonna lie. And it was the middle of the game.
Love it.
Like, she was
Love it.
pulling my shirt and I just like pushed her when the ref wasn't looking. And she was like, I miss you. And I was like, I miss you too. I hope we win. She was like, I hope we win. I was like, yeah, okay. Shut up.
It's giving siblings. Like,
giving
let's be real.
Absolutely.
It's like you love each other, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
push you as soon as
Yeah.
Mom's not looking.
100%. And same with like Chloe Lagazo the week before. Like, she was like, you seem like you're really enjoying it. And I'm so glad to like see you like being happy and whatnot. And that just shows that friendship side again and that whole football community. It's
100%.
awesome. I love it.
How did you feel when you looked at the draw and see that we're playing Sydney first up?
I was like, oofed. I literally reposted it on my Instagram and I had like probably 60 people say big first game. And I said, that is the best way I could start my debut for Mariners is against my old team and to get the win. Like, straight after in the huddle, I literally said, F yes, girls, let's go.
And I'm sure they had no problem shaking your hands. They were all good after the game too.
Well, so good that Ante actually said good work to me during the game, if you guys heard that.
Wow. There you go. See?
But they were great. They were all very happy to see me. They gave me the biggest hugs and stuff. Like, yeah, a couple of them were like, shit, like we lost. But at the end of the day, like you said, it's that relationship you built for years and years. And it was good seeing Ante again. He shook my hand, gave me a hug. And he was like, I think I said your name 6 times during that game because I'm not used to not having you on my team. So it's quite funny and very like wholesome at the same time to still be able to be on good professional terms with an old coach.
100%. No, that's what it's all about. And look, I've saved the biggest question for last, so I hope you're ready for it. I've had plenty of warm up, but what's the earliest date your Christmas decorations should go up?
Has to be, oh no. I know the answer straight away too, because I think it's criminal if you have them up before like December 1st.
Oh, really? Okay. Good answer. That's great.
Good to talk to you, Taylor. Thanks for coming in.
And done. Cut.
Coming up next week on the show. Good answer. We'll go with that. Look, it's been an absolute blast having a chat with you, Taylor. I'm so happy that you're at the club. I said that to you straight up. Like, been an admirer for a lot of years. So to have you here and to be able to cheer you on is an absolute bonus. So thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll get you on again sometime during the year to see how we're all traveling.
Yeah, sounds amazing, guys. Absolute pleasure. And I look forward to this weekend's game and I'll see you both there.
Take care.